I have been building model airplanes from sheets of foam for many years, and as you can see, I have built a large number. Over the years, I have developed building techniques that allow me to rapidly and inexpensively build uh, so many airplanes. The approach is not by using kits or um, plans, but just simply 3-view drawings that can be printed out from the uh, internet. Building from a 3-view drawing like this, you don't have the given dimensions of your model, so you have to decide that yourself. Uh, I set up the wingspan first and then just measure everything else in proportion to that. When building like that, your most important tool is your ruler because you have to measure everything. The wing that I'm building today is a setup for a 40-inch wingspan, which I found to be works out well for the size motors that I have, and ends up with about a wing loading of between 8 and 10. I have built most of my planes using the Dapron foam, which comes at about 1/4 of an inch thick. You can, in this case, we have a Grumman Wildcat here, and I've started working on the wings, and I'll show you the stepwise procedure that I use for doing this. The method I use for building the wings is based on that developed by Experimental Airlines. This is a website that shows the construction of many different types of airplanes using the ready board from the Dollar Tree stores. The method I have developed here, I believe, results in a stronger wing, but is still very fast building. The wing, I have half of the Wildcat wing shown here. It's a tapered wing, and it's built with a top and the bottom and a solid spar. There's also a piece at the leading edge and a rounded part added in the front. The trailing edge on both pieces is sanded slightly so that the trailing edge isn't so thick. To arrange the halves of your wings properly so that you don't end up with 2 left wings. The top and bottom of the wing are rounded or bent by rolling them over, for instance, this piece of PVC pipe, and it gives them the shape of the airfoil. Once you've done that on both the top and the bottom, then I sand down the trailing edge and the leading edge a little bit. This sanding of the trailing edge gives it more area for the glue to attach. Here is the bottom of the wing I have prepared already, and it has a spar. This is 1.5 inch wide pieces, 3 thick. You make the thickness of the wing the desired amount by simply stacking more or fewer sheets of foam. The leading edge here has a 1/2 inch sheet along the leading edge that's glued in place. I have tapered this spar somewhat by simply sanding down the top of it, because as the wing tapers to the end, then your thickness of your airfoil is about the same as you go down the length of the wing. Attach the top of the wing to the bottom part and the spar using thin foam safe CA. Just run a bead along the spar, the leading edge, trailing edge, and then apply a hardener to the other half. Then carefully align the parts, and I use a 1/4 inch thick yardstick to raise the leading edge a little bit so that you get that semi-symmetrical airfoil, and then just hold it in place until the CA sets. Quick and easy. Building a wing like this, it's important that your table is level so that the wing comes out straight, and typically this results in a pretty straight wing. If they don't come out really straight, it is possible to bend these things to get them straight. The next step is adding the leading edge, and I have sanded this leading edge level and then glued on a piece, 3/4 inch wide strip of foam. Then you just trim this off and sand it round, and you end up with a nice round leading edge. The wingtip for the Wildcat isn't very rounded, and for the most part I don't bother with this too much, but in this case I've just added a piece and sanded it off smooth. If the wingtip is rounded for your model, you can do it like this, where you just have your wing and add a rounded piece of foam to the tip. The next step is making the ailerons. I set the ailerons at about 1 foot long and 1 1/4 inches wide. First thing is to measure from the trailing edge 1.5 inches and mark at 1.5 and 1 inch at both ends of the aileron. Then make a cut all the way through both front, top and bottom of the wing at the 2 ends. Then make 2 cuts the length of the aileron. The first cut is made at a 45-degree angle through both layers. The second cut is at a 90-degree angle to the top of the wing, again through both the layers of the wing. This gives you 2 pieces. So I've cut this one out. This more narrow piece is attached to the wing with the beveled edge down, and it just fits because of the length of the ailerons. Then you glue this in place and sand it off level with the top. The other part you glue to the trailing edge of the aileron and it comes out like this with the beveled edge down here. You trim this off level with the surface of the aileron. Then the thing fits in place. The next step is the hinge on the aileron. I use just regular Scotch tape and run the tape the full length of the gap, the hinge gap. Make sure that it moves freely. Then add another piece on the bottom. This is important. And make sure that the tape on the bottom touches the tape on the top, because this really strengthens the hinge. I've never had one of these fail, and they might come loose a little bit, but it's never come off. The next step is setting up the servos for the linkages. The control horn I make from about 1/16 inch plywood, about 3/4 of an inch long. Be sure that they're securely glued to the aileron. Well, this is probably the weakest point in your whole model. Be sure that it's securely glued in place. I use these little clevises that you can buy from Amazon, and just figure out the length of your linkage, which is the wire with a Z-bend on it, and trace around the servo. Take part of that piece that you cut out, glue it to the bottom of the wing so that the servo sits up a little bit in the wing, and then connect your linkage. With everything in place, you just glue down the servo and tighten the set screw on your linkage. The wire for the servo comes out of the end of the wing, and I just put it in a slot cut in the edge of the wing so that you can join the wings together. Finally, with both wing halves built, sand down the ends of the wings so that they fit together well for the amount of dihedral that you want. I use about this much. Seems to work well. Put a little epoxy on the end of the wing and weight it down so it stays in place until it's dry. After the epoxy is dry and you're sure that the wing doesn't have a twist in it, then I add extra epoxy over the joint on both the top and the bottom. I've never had this joint fail. That's it for the wing. Now we'll start on the fuselage. That'll take a little bit longer.